there is clearly a need to have locally available stocks of near-virus-free planting material of the released varieties in all countries in Africa where cassava is an important crop. Cassava is a major staple food for more than 200 million people in Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa. The primary purpose of growing cassava has changed from mere food crop to commercial commodity. New uses and potential benefits of cassava keep emerging every time. Running a successful cassava seed business requires general business management skills. Therefore, this section addresses aspects such as entrepreneurship, enterprise selection, business records, and business planning. Welcome to Suya e-learning for food security, climate change, school feeding program, nutrition education for all. When you have bad governance and poor accountability from your local government leaders, then you are doomed to live under control of cartels and fools. We hope you subscribe to our channel YouTube at Suya Mombasa and share this link with your friends or family. What are the 5 objectives of the East African Community? The EAC aims to achieve prosperity, competitiveness, security, stability, and political unification in East Africa. The partner countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi, aim to create a political federation that would expand and reinforce economic, political, social, and cultural integration. Health and education. A healthy and well-educated population would be more productive. The school farms network to help any teaching or other support staff, or parent wishing to develop their knowledge and skills, whether running an established school farm or starting a new one. Plants use their root exudates as a primary form of communication with their biotic surroundings, facilitating a number of responses such as nutrient absorption, resource competition, same-species signaling, attraction of microorganisms, along with many other interactions. What is the microbial interaction with plant roots? Root-associated microbes, free-living, symbiotic or endophytic, can produce various types of molecules. Rhizosphere microbes mitigate stress responses by regulating the nutritional and hormonal balance in plants and inducing systemic tolerance to biotic and abiotic stresses and plant growth. Mulching is the process of covering the topsoil with plant material such as leaves, grass, twigs, crop residues, straw, etc. A mulch cover enhances the activity of soil organisms such as earthworms. Characteristics of a good mulch. The ideal mulch is economical, readily available, and easily applied and removed, stays in place well, and supplies organic matter to the soil, yet is free of noxious weeds, insects, and diseases. Cassava as a root crop requires a substantial amount of moisture in the first 3 to 4 months of its growth, hence, soils with high water holding capacity culminating in high water table for the root absorption are highly essential for optimum production. However, waterlogged conditions must be avoided. Cassava as a root crop requires a substantial amount of moisture in the first 3 to 4 months of its growth, hence, soils with high water holding capacity culminating in high water table for the root absorption are highly essential for optimum production. However, waterlogged conditions must be avoided. Hence planting in the rainy season is desirable or availability of water for irrigation for their initial growth.
Transform 3 million poor farmers from food deficit to surplus producers through input finance and intensive agricultural extension support, with a target to generate minimum productivity target of 50,000 per acre. Knowledge is a garden. If it isn't cultivated, you can't harvest it. About 5,000 stem cuttings can be planted in 1 acre in a spacing of 1 meter by 0.80 meters. 1 tree equals 10 kilograms roots. Total produce 50,000 kilograms. Selling at 20 sh per kilogram. Total sale of 1 million. Total sale from stems. Mini stems 350,000. Total sale of leaves 4. Fodder, eating, 250,000. Pumpkins and beans. Companion crop. Value additions. 200,000.
Most members of Hustler Nation are young and energetic, but lack avenues to make real money. The wider picture is one of despair, as many obstacles have been placed in the path of hustlers by dynasties to keep them blind to real money-making opportunities. It is our vision that in 2 years, the farming class will have been fully nationalized and working hand in hand with the government by receiving directives on what to plant, how to plant it. What is the life cycle of a whitefly? Whitefly, biocontrol, damage and life cycle. Whiteflies have 6 distinct developmental stages: the egg, first, second, third and fourth larval instars, and an adult insect. The eggs are elliptical and often deposited in circles. The young larvae, which on hatching already have well-developed legs and antennae, are known as crawlers. What causes whiteflies? As much as your plants like nitrogen-rich fertilizers, whiteflies like your nitrogen-rich plants as well. Excessive nitrogen fertilization can cause frequent infestations. While nitrogen can boost the vitality of your plants, over-fertilizing your garden can attract whiteflies, leading to more frequent infestations. Morphological change. Stunted plant growth. Leaf shedding. Reduced leaf area index. Reduced shoot height. Reduced biomass. Leaf burning. Limited root growth. Reduced stem diameter. Physiological change. Early stomatal closure. Photosynthesis hindrance. Reduced transpiration. Lowered leaf relative water content. Biochemical change. Increased antioxidant enzyme activity. Rapid ABA accumulation. Increased chlorophyll. Increased cyanogenic glucoside concentration. Reduced nitrogen use efficiency. Increased osmoprotectant. Effects on tuber yield attributes. Reduced harvest index. Altered starch quantity and quality. Reduced tuber yield. Cassava brown streak disease, CBSD, was first reported in Eastern Africa during the 1930s and causes up to 70% losses in cassava root yields. 23. Typical CBSD symptoms are leaf chlorosis, brown streaks on stems, and dry hard rot in roots, thus affecting both the quality and quantity of edible storage roots. What are the effects of brown streak virus disease on yield and quality of cassava in Tanzania? Today, the disease caused by this virus, cassava brown streak virus disease, CBSD, is recognized as being responsible for serious losses in these regions. Not only does it cause yield losses, but CBSD also gives rise to brown necrotic streaks in the tuberous roots, making them undesirable for cooking and processing. The cassava mealybug is pinkish in color. Its body is surrounded by very short filaments and covered with a fine coating of wax. Adults are 0.5 to 1.4 mm long. This mealybug does not have males. Females live for about 20 days and lay 400 eggs in average. How do you control cassava mealybugs? Biopesticides, such as extract of neem seed oil, are recommended for controlling whiteflies, mealybugs, and variegated grasshoppers. Whitefly and mealybug numbers can also be reduced with sticky traps and by spraying plants with soapy water. The adults were seen to have a migratory flight during early hours of the morning, 6 to 7 a.m., among hosts. Damage seemed to be mainly caused by the sap, sucking immature and adult whiteflies that fed on the underside of the foliage. Preferential feeding was observed to be mainly on lower mature leaves. Heavily infested plants were observed to have a black sooty appearance from mold growing on the sugary secretions that the whitefly immature secreted. Solutions to infections and attacks. Remember that these fungi and pests are attracted to plants with a low pH. Calcium, lime, soft carbon, and microbes for plant growth and soil health. Calcium is the insect's enemy. Young leaves have less calcium than spur leaves, so the aphids go after them. Eliminating pest and disease. Increase mineral uptake and balance with silicic acid. Raise the internal pH of the plant by providing more bioavailable forms of calcium and potassium. Increase the Brix level by providing absorbable L-amino acids and increasing mineralization within the plant. Healthy seedlings with good growth and vigor contribute to disease resistance and improved yield. It is important to identify strategies for improved growth vigor and disease resistance. Trichoderma spp. and AMF are known to promote growth and resistance to diseases in plants. There is immediate potential for the farmer to use microbial inoculants such as AMF and TE Herslianism, especially when the seedlings are raised in the nursery beds and are later transplanted in the field. Adding microbial growth and biocontrol agents to the roots of transplants is an effective and inexpensive means to provide a more vigorous transplant with disease protection when it is transplanted into the field. Increase availability of quality cassava planting materials from 40.96 million cuttings in 2018 to 3.5 billion cuttings by 2030. Ensure at least 30% of the area under cassava production are planted with planting materials of improved varieties by 2030. Increase area of registered cassava planting material multiplication farms from 398.85 hectares 2020 to 15,000 hectares by 2030. Develop and disseminate cassava fertilizer rates and facilitate establishment of at least 5 large-scale input suppliers by 2030. Train and deploy at least 100 authorized seed inspectors and 20 cassava input suppliers by 2030. At least 50% of early generation cassava seed farms equipped with modern irrigation facilities by 2030. There will come a time when only those that know how to plant will be eating. Chief Oran Lions. If you like African food systems content, please subscribe and share our channel with your friends and family, or if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our weekly presentation podcast. Agriculture is tool to create health, wealth, shelter, protect environment, food, nutrition and basic skills development for our local communities. The degree of toxicity is altered by plant breeding, agricultural practice, environmental conditions, and methods of food preparation. Boiling for just 10 to 15 minutes can reduce toxicity of cassava. However, cassava has a poisonous compound in the class of cyanogenic glycoside known as linamarin, 96%, and lotorstrolin, 4%. These compounds are distributed largely in the leaves and the root cortex, skin layer, with smaller amounts in the root parenchyma, interior. Lotorstrolin is the glucoside of methyl-ethyl ketone cyanohydrin and is structurally related to linamarin, the acetone cyanohydrin glucoside also found in these plants. Both lotorstrolin and linamarin may be hydrolyzed by the enzyme linamarase to form glucose and a precursor to the toxic compound hydrogen cyanide. As a defense mechanism against attack by predators, cassava produces 2 cyanogenic glucosides, linamarin, and a small amount of lotorstrolin, methyl-linamarin. Pounding cassava to small pieces in a traditional pestle and mortar prior to drying was the most efficient method, providing 90% removal of cyanogens. Pounding and crushing cassava prior to sun-drying were significantly better than all other root preparation pretreatments evaluated. Recently, new processing method that reduced the total cyanide content of cassava by 3 to 6-fold of its former value, i.e. from 43 ppm to 7 ppm, over 80% reduction, was developed by Bradbury and Denton, 2010. The wetting method involved mixing dry cassava flour with water and spreading it on a thin layer in the shade for 5 hours or in the sun for 2 hours prior to cooking, which allows the enzymatic breakdown of linamarin to HCN and volatilized into the warm environment. Fusarium wilt, widespread plant disease caused by many forms of the soil, inhabiting fungus Fusarium oxysporum. Several hundred plant species are susceptible, including important food crops such as sweet potatoes, tomatoes, legumes, melons, and bananas. Infection is known as Panama disease. Fusarium wilt does not spread above the ground from plant to plant. Each plant is individually infected when the organism enters the root system. Symptoms include yellowing, stunting, and death of seedlings and yellowing and stunting of older plants. Infected plants wilt readily, lower leaves yellow and dry, the xylem tissues turn brown, and the plant may die. In the early stages of disease, the roots are not rotted. Agricultural lime increases the availability of major nutrients nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium by increasing nitrogen fixing in legumes and free-living bacteria, increasing N, P and K release from organic matter through higher microbial activity, releasing phosphate from iron and aluminum, decreasing potassium loss from leaching. Natural lime, the best long-term investment. Improved root and plant development. Building and maintaining soil structure. Neutralizing acidification. Reducing possibilities of soil erosion. Inhibiting the movement and transposition of heavy metals. Increasing bacterial activity in the soil. Supporting organic matter build-up. Maximizing efficiency from fertilizers and agro-to-chemicals. Decreasing nutrient loss from leaching. Releasing soil nutrient reserves. Improved water quality in rivers and streams. Development of environmental and woodland areas. Improved environment for wildlife. The jaggery-propagated waste decomposer indicated the presence of cellular lytic, phosphate and potassium solubilizing Sidera for producing bacteria on selective culture media. The consortium is also abundant in nitrogen-fixing bacteria, Azotobacter, Azospirillum, Rhizobium, Acetobacter, and Pseudomonas fluorescens. There will come a time when only those that know how to plant will be eating. Chief Oran Lions. If you like African food systems content, please subscribe and share our channel with your friends and family, or if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our weekly presentation podcast. Agriculture is tool to create health, wealth, shelter, protect environment, food, nutrition and basic skills development for our local communities.